This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Who is that? Is that? Oh, I've got right up now just the shared screen of the agenda. Um,
This is Mark, and I cannot see anybody's faces.
okay. Do you see the agenda on the screen?
Yes.
All right. Um, at the top, there might be a drop-down menu that says "Everyone." Change the layout.
Yep. Yep.
And that's where you should be able to. If you click on everyone, and then you can decide how they want to appear on the side of
Comes
the
down to
screen.
everyone active.
Yep. Yeah, so if you choose everyone, and then you can have the little screen portraits listed on the side, across the top, or down the left or right side.
It's everyone. I have in green everyone, but I don't have any on the sides.
Okay.
But sorry, as long as I can hear you, that's all that counts.
Okay. Well, and we'll see if we can figure out as we go along. Uh, Dick,
Yep.
I guess we
Ready to go?
Yep.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us on today's JTC meeting on Wednesday, July 13th. My name is Dick Kilhart. I'm the Public Works Superintendent in Athol. We'll be chairing this meeting today, and we will move through the agenda that was presented to all of you electronically here just a few days ago. Certainly feel free to speak up. This is your meeting, not simply ours, but it's ours as a group. So if you have something to say, either raise your hand in the chat or reach out and we can recognize you and we can answer all those questions that you have. Moving to item number 2, public comments. Is there anything that members of the group or someone that may not have been on the meeting before have a wish to bring forward to us in today's meeting? I don't see any. Brad, do you?
No, I don't. I just have one question. I'm looking at the list of people who are here. Someone is labeled as Lancaster. Could you identify yourself, just so I know?
Yep, sorry. I was actually trying to figure out how to change that. It's Kate Hodges. I'm the town administrator in Lancaster.
Okay, I will make that note so that we have you listed as such.
Think I did it. Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay. Moving forward to item number 3, and Brad has just put up the minutes. We can certainly entertain a motion to approve those minutes from the last JTC or a motion to second it for some discussion. If there's discussion in there, does anybody not have them? If you don't, he's got those up in front of you now. They were also sent to you electronically recently.
Motion to approve Tim Kill, Harvard DPW.
Is there a second?
Second, Dick Mackey, Sterling.
So there's been a motion and it's been seconded to accept the minutes as presented. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, we'll move forward with a vote to approve those minutes. All those in favor, signify by saying aye or raising your hand if we can see you.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing and hearing none, those minutes will be approved as presented. Thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
Moving forward to item number 4, it's the annual election of officers. these names on the list were put together by the nominating committee. Myself as the chair here for Athol, Travis Cardon, NCMCC, and Secretary Robert Schwartz from Gardner.
I would just like to say the nominating committee did put forward two people, Robert Schwartz of Gardner and Guy Corbacero, the incumbent, for secretary. After talking later with Guy, he indicated if someone else would like the position, he would want to withdraw his name. So that's why you see him crossed out. So basically, we have one candidate for each position. And Dick, you can ask for floor nominations.
Yes, and I was going to move forward. That's our next Robert's Rule of Order, I guess. Is there any nominations for either of those three positions? Certainly, the chair would be happy if someone was interested in getting nominated for that to run against me. That would be great. I don't see anybody racing to raise their hands or say aye. So, but if there are nominations from the floor for any of those, certainly we'd welcome the participation. Seeing and hearing none. Brad, do you see any that I don't?
No, I do not. And as
Okay.
is the case in the past, since we have one candidate for each position, in the past there's been a motion to cast one ballot for the people listed, and that way, and on behalf of the MJTC. So,
Is there a motion to cast one vote for each of those positions of the folks that are listed on the slate here in front of you?
Bob Schwartz, Gardner, so move.
Second.
Mark Morgan, seconded.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing and hearing none, I guess that slate is good for another year. So Brad, you're all set for another year.
great. Thank you all for participating and taking part in the election.
Moving forward to item number 4, the 2022 through 2026 TIP program. And Brad, are you handling that or?
Yes, I am. I've got this
Okay.
one. All right. What you see up on the screen, basically this is going to be presented to the Montachusett MPO next week for their action. I just thought I'd give you a heads up on what they'll be discussing. And it's likely that an amendment will be put out for 21-day public review and comment period by the MPO next week. And it involves basically the Transit Authority, MART, and some changes to projects within the federal fiscal year 2022 transit element of the TIP. What you can see in front of you is those highlighted in yellow have some cost changes associated with those projects. And there's been an addition of one new project highlighted in green. The new project is under the Mobility Assistance Program, or MAP. They were to buy replacement paratransit vehicles. The Transit Authority applies on a yearly basis to this program through the state. And about sometime in the summer, the state finalizes a list of who has gotten the awards. MART was able to pick up some funding for, again, their vehicles and replacements. So this project now has to be put onto the current TIP. So that's one addition that's been made. The other projects are just simply some changes in the cost. You'll see over in the third to last column saying cost change, what the change is from the existing TIP. Mostly there are reductions in cost. The first project has a reduction of $4,300. And that's about a 21% decrease in the project cost. The second project is only a $20 change. That's less than a 0.1% reduction. The third project is reduced by $36,730, or about a 3% decrease. The fourth project actually has an increase of $57,000 $460, so about a 46% increase in the total cost of that project. The remaining ones has next one has a decrease of $4,221, or about a 10.21% decrease. That'll be important in a second. The second to last project has an increase of $1,313, about 3.44%, and the final project has a decrease of $13,502, about a 56% decrease. The reason for these percentages, within the tip, we have an amendment or an adjustment procedure listed, and those are two different actions that are required. Amendment requires that the project listing go out for 21-day public review and comment period. An adjustment is simply a change to the tip that doesn't need the public comment period, and the MPO can simply act upon that based upon the requirements and the rules we put in our tip. And basically in the tip, what we say is if there's a major change in a project, so it's as a new project being added, which is in the case of the MAP project in green, or there's been a project cost change of typically greater than 10%, those would require an amendment. So with all these changes, we have 4 projects that need to be part of a formal amendment. And that is the first one regarding MART multiple bus shelters, then the MART rehab of their maintenance bays at Water Street, the fleet maintenance for some transmissions requires an amendment, and then the last one is general maintenance facility rehab of their mechanical facilities. That requires an amendment. So the MPO will likely send those projects along with the MAP project in green out for 21-day public review and comment period. The others, which have changes of less than 10%, the upgrade in IT support equipment, the rehab at the Fitchburg Intermodal Center, and the 5 replacement transmissions, 4 replacement transmissions are also an adjustment. So those will be acted upon by the MPO most likely. They'll accept those changes and have those put into place right away. And those won't need to be part of the amendment process in the formal comment period. But that is also up to the MPO to decide. They could decide to put all of them as an amendment so they could solicit as many comments as they can. So this is going to be presented by the Transit Authority at the MPO meeting next week. I'm showing it to you now for one reason, that is typically during the public comment period, we use the next meeting of the MJTC as an opportunity for public discussion and comments on the TIP amendments. Now, in the past, we have not received any comments per se or related to transit project changes, but that's always a possibility. And as you know, in part of the discussion last month, we talked about going to an every other month schedule for the MJTC. So we're meeting in July, and typically then we would not meet in August and then meet in September. So I'm sort of presenting this to let you know that there will be an amendment going out if the MJTC wishes to have a formal meeting so that we could list it as a potential public comment opportunity for individuals on the TIP amendment. We could then schedule it, or just to let you know that this is happening so that if you have any interest in making comments on it, you can do that through an email or something else to us here at the Planning Commission. So right now this is basically informational, but it's also sort of a heads up as to what the MJTC would like to do in the coming months. Typically, if we feel there's a need for the public meeting so that people can comment, we can post that and do that, or we could hold a special meeting just for the public comments opportunity for just the TIP amendment. So I'm just throwing a couple things at you for your thoughts and discussion, and to see how you would like to proceed on this. And also if there are any questions on what's being proposed by the Transit Authority.
Thank you, Brad. Is there any questions specific to Brad's conversation with regards to this proposal change for next week's MPO?
Mr. Chair, relative to these amendments, how are they published? How are these amendments published so that the public can view them
What we
and
typically
can tell?
What we typically do is we send out a notice to all those on our mailing list, and I will include this summary with it. We also post it on our website on the announcement pages on the front page. So basically, it's through an email and through the website that announces there's been a tip amendment put out there, and people can then open it and comment. On our website, you'll under announcement, it'll say tip amendment number 6 released for public comment, and then you can just read about it and also download this summary and provide comments that way.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions for Brad? Seeing and hearing none, I think we can move forward to the next item on the agenda.
Okay.
And it's the regional transportation update. And that is
Going to be Sherry.
Sherry, right?
Yep, that's me. So looking at the draft schedule that's on the screen, for the month of July, we have the, let's see, we're talking about the draft RTP that we're working on, in the process of working on anyway, and then also the vision statement, which is the goal for today. And then moving on, it'll be the goals in relation to the vision statement, and then the objectives and performance measures shortly thereafter that. We're also going to be talking about some public outreach where we have a draft survey to present today as well. So for the first item, I'd like to do the vision statement. So we have on the screen the previous, I don't remember how many of you had been involved in the 2020 RTP, but you can see our vision statement from that document. And then the drafted or the proposed vision statement is right below it. The only changes that we had made, if you read the vision statement from the previous year, it's a very long run-on sentence. I know our goal was to make it short and sweet and kind of encompassing a lot of different topics, but also being very broad in the same aspect. So the only change that we made, we tried to shorten up the sentence a little bit to make it less run-on. We just removed, let's see, we removed where it says in this middle sentence, while maintaining support and encouragement for economic development. So we changed that to just saying, oh my goodness, I'm trying to make it so easy for myself, and I'm not making it easy for myself. We took out some words, basically. So we don't say while maintaining support. And then we included, we also took out while simultaneously promoting a sustainable, healthy, livable, and environmentally sensitive region. Not necessarily stating that those aren't important to us. It just felt that we could be more broad in that wording and make it so it's less wordy, I guess, for lack of a better term. We can include it, but I would like to split it at least into 2 sentences so it's not so long, but also keeping it a little bit short and simple. And I know you can see in the second page, we had a couple of examples of what other planning agencies have done. This was in their previous RTPs as well. Some of them used bullets to make it a little bit simpler to read. And some of them had very different ways of doing it, just with their wording and what their focuses were. I know most of the time we do like to stay a little bit consistent with what we've used in the past, just so it's not so drastically different from years past, but it does not have to be the same. So right now we're just looking for feedback in how you think the drafted vision statement is as it is. If there's any changes you'd like to see made, maybe you did like the original that we had previously, or if we want to alter that in any way. Now's the time for feedback for that, and then we are going to present it to the MPO as well so that they can provide feedback, and we'll try to have some kind of final vision statement. So at this time, does anybody have any comments on what we've done or how it was, how it could be?
Sherry,
Yes.
Janet Tice, Shirley.
Okay. Hi,
Yes,
Sherry.
I'd like to see that sentence restored, the one that you've eliminated that I
Okay.
don't see it on the screen right now, but the one that talks about quality of life. I
Yep.
think it's because you specify economic development, growth, and revitalization. I think you need to balance that with healthy, livable, environmentally sensitive region. I'd like to see both those things spelled out.
Okay. Do you think that we could find a way to break it up into two sentences of sorts?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I mean, I think
Do you think it's also run on? Because I just want to make sure it's not just me. Because all 4 lines, there's no
yeah,
breakup.
grammatically, I think it could be tightened up a little bit, but
Yeah, that's what we were trying to figure out how to do.
right. But I just would not eliminate the reference to, healthy, livable, basically the quality of life aspect of things should be
Okay.
called out.
I would like to say too that there's no, we're not looking for formal decision finalization today. So if you take this home and you want to think about it, and if you have ideas and thoughts at that point too, send it to us. You can send it to Sherry, care of sbean at mrpc.org. And then we'll come back with some revisions based upon those comments, and then try to settle on a final version at that time.
I have
I think for the
Mark
time being,
Morgan, I
we'll
have a
try
question.
to. Oh, go ahead. Who had the question?
How do we find a
My
copy
question
of
is,
that?
when I'm reading this, it looks to me like we're doing a 2-year advance statement. So 23 is already done, so we're going to 24. Is that correct?
24 will be when the final document is completed. We're just starting it early, and it's actually will be completed at the end of 23, but they call it a 2024 document.
Okay.
Yeah, a prior RTP is known as the 2020
Okay.
document,
Thank
and
you.
it was endorsed in 2019. I think,
Thank
Bob,
you.
you had a question about where to get
Yeah, how
copies.
do we find a copy of that?
If you go to the MRPC website or the email announcing this meeting, you'll see that there's a link to an online folder, a OneDrive folder online that contains all of these handouts. Let me just see if I can do a quick show you on the site. Let's see. I'm gonna have to unshare this for a second, and then I will bring back repair. Share screen. Entire screen.
Hey, I got
Okay.
everybody.
So if you go to the MRPC
Well, I
website,
had everybody for a minute. There you are.
if you go to mrpc.org,
Okay.
right here on upcoming meetings is you'll see Montachusett Joint Transportation Committee for today. This will disappear if you go there tomorrow because it just keeps the most current ones, but I'll show you that in a second. If you click here and scroll down to this line, handouts for meetings,
Yep.
and if you click that, it's going to take you to this OneDrive folder where all the handouts are from this meeting,
Oh,
and
I
you
got
can
it.
download at that point.
I got it.
If you go there tomorrow, you're not going to see this listing here, but you can go to all upcoming events. You'll come to the calendar, and it'll be right here, and you can then just click on it and go back to the same thing, to that handout folder.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. Now,
Could I comment as well?
sure.
Beth Paxton from Townsend. I do like what NIMCOG wrote in terms of assessing the ability of the existing transportation system to meet the needs. To me, in a vision statement, that's really important. Trying to expand the system for users and include areas where we may not even know there's a need. And I don't know if there's a way to write this generally, but I feel that that would be a really important vision for me is expansion and refinement of the multimodal transportation system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll look at all of those and see what we can figure out.
So
And
Beth, that
again,
was the
Brad,
second bullet, right?
for
For the
a
NEPCO?
minute.
Yeah, but I mean, you can kind of massage it, and my biggest thing is I think that a big vision would be to expand to communities, which goes along with supporting economic development, transportation for where it's needed most, and reducing carbon emissions by car travel. And I don't know much
Mhm.
about the system, but I would say that that for me is a vision, is expanding that system where it's needed.
Okay. What if I could make that part of the second sentence? So it will incorporate that and what we're adding back in. I'll look at that more later.
Thanks. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Beth.
You're welcome.
sorry, someone else had a question?
Yeah, Brad,
No?
I lost all the pictures again.
Oh, well, right now up on the screen, all I
Just so you
have
know.
is the vision statement for people to see. So we'll bring
Okay,
everybody back
all
in a
right.
few minutes. Okay.
Okie dokie.
So,
So the
and
next
as we said
thing,
earlier, is if you have any other ideas during the in-between meetings, just send us an email.
I think the next thing for the RTP would be the survey that we've drafted. It could use some format tweaking, but for the most part, it's very similar to the previous survey that we did. So it'd be nice to keep the survey questions consistent so that we can compare past years' data to this current survey. The one thing that we did do that's different is pre-pandemic and post-pandemic questions, because it's interesting to hear about the changes that have been made since COVID had started and where we are currently. So just travel patterns, if people are more working from home or if they're traveling at different times or different amounts. So a lot of those questions are, it says in bold, you can see like the question number 4, usual method of travel in a week pre-pandemic. So they can check off, how they usually traveled before COVID had started. And then number 5 is just the same question with post-pandemic, how they are doing it now, currently. So we can kind of compare if there has been significant changes in travel and travel patterns and modes of transportation, or maybe not. I know a lot of the traffic has started to increase again, where it's almost back to a pre-pandemic numbers in some aspects, in some areas anyway. So I don't know if anybody else has gotten a chance to look at the rest of the survey questions. But I can briefly go over it. So we asked about method of travel, pre and post pandemic, the average length of your commute pre and post pandemic, because maybe there's traffic that has been reduced. Maybe it's taking you a lot less time to get to and from work, or maybe you're working from home, so it takes you 0 minutes to get to work now. And then also the major condition that impacts your commute the most, whether it's congestion, roadway infrastructure, accidents, train malfunctions or breakdowns, traffic lights. If you drive alone, are there any other commuting options currently available? Like are there carpooling, commuter rail? Is that an option for you? Biking, walking, things like that. And if there were other options, would you use them? Yes or no? And then rate the importance of the following issues that need to be addressed in your travels over the next 25 years. So you can rank number 1 as the most important to you, whether it be road maintenance, travel options, congestion, safety, things like that. And then 10 would be the least important to you. This will actually help us identify where some of the funding should go. So maybe it's safety that is the most important to you. Maybe we would recommend that more of our dollars within the region go towards safety projects. And then the last question we have are your travel habits. Are they different now compared to pre-pandemic times? Maybe you increased working from home, you reduced your miles driven, or maybe not at all. So we're just curious about where people are at this time now. And then there's a section for comments or recommendations. transportation in the region. And we were hoping to get this online through SurveyMonkey and sending out the link to everybody on our mailing lists, our website, other people's newsletters, other organizations' newsletters, and then maybe even like to translate at least one of the surveys into Spanish so we could drop it off at the Spanish centers and at least have that available for people who might prefer a Spanish survey. So I think that's where we're at for the survey. We really want to get this moving soon because this is where the public input really needs to come in before we can move forward with the development of the document. Is there any questions on the survey or comments?
I was just going to say the chamber is happy to help get the word out. So if you send us whatever digital flyers and PDFs or whatever links and whatever verbiage you want us to send out, we're happy to help.
Awesome, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll also say that, as Sherry mentioned, this will be an online survey. We'll get the link sent out to everybody. But as you look this over, if the questions don't make sense to you or something doesn't click, let us know, because that's one thing we want to do is make sure people understand what we're asking from them and they can fill it out properly. So again, just shoot us an email, give us a phone call, whatever, and we'll update and adjust. And we'll also have paper versions of this available for distribution at meetings that we have or other locations that might be helpful, senior centers or so forth. And we'll try and make some drop boxes available at those same locations. But hopefully everybody will look to do the SurveyMonkey online survey, and we'll make sure that it gets out to everybody.
Any more questions for Sherry? Good, Sherry?
Yeah, I think I'm all set. I think the next meeting will just present a revised vision statement that incorporates the comments that were made today. We should have the survey hopefully finalized by then after we review it with the MPO next week. And then we'll move on to goals and objectives and such like that.
Perfect, thank you. Moving forward to item number 7, the Safe Streets for All federal grant program. Brad, is Brian taking this or you taking this?
No, that is mine. Unfortunately, Brian took the easy way out and went on vacation this week. What I want to talk about is what's known as the Safe Streets for All grant program, or its abbreviation is SS4A. I put together from the USDOT's website these FAQs, these frequently asked questions about the program. And I just want to run through it and let you know where we stand as the RPA and the MPO on this program, what we plan on doing, and getting some feedback from the communities to see who's interested in doing some of this stuff. So basically, the grant program is to improve roadway safety by significantly reducing or eliminating roadway fatalities and serious injuries through safety action plan development and implementation. It's focused on all users, pedestrians, bicyclists, motorists, personal travel, transit users, and so forth. And there are 2 types of grants in this program that we can apply for. The first is action plan grants. That's going to provide federal funds to allow people to develop, complete, or supplement a comprehensive safety action plan. This is important. The action plan is the foundation of the program. The grants fund supplemental action plans if you already have one in place or developing one completely from scratch. The second type of grant is an implementation grant that provides funds to implement projects and strategies that have been identified in an action plan. Basically, you cannot apply for an implementation grant until you have an action plan that has been developed and identifies these types of strategies and priorities within it. Who can apply for these grants? Basically, everyone except the state as an entity. MPOs can apply, political subdivision of a state, cities, towns, whatever. Tribal governments, which we don't have here, and a multi-jurisdictional group of entities described in 1 through 3. So it can be just the MPO seeking funding, or it could be 2 or 3 towns getting together and applying under one application, or it could be 22 communities joining as partners in an application for a regional one through the MPO. So it's really open-ended as how you can establish and put together an application. For an implementation grant, you must also be one of the same 4 that are listed here, but you also have to have ownership and maintenance responsibilities over the roadway network, and be eligible with safety responsibilities that affect roadways. Be an eligible applicant with safety responsibilities that affect roadways, and have an agreement from the agency that has ownership or maintenance of the road that you're trying to put something on, such as if you are looking to do something that's under the jurisdiction of Mass DOT, you have an agreement with Mass DOT that they're on board with what's being approved and what's being implemented. Yeah, we don't have to worry about the applicant's jurisdiction. Are rural communities eligible for safe streets and roads? Definitely. Rural safety has been a major concern of the US DOT. And so this grant program is designed to support all kinds of communities. They list a couple of sites that have provided additional information and guidance for rural communities. This might be interesting for some of the smaller communities to take a look at to see what the US DOT has put together already for opportunities to help the smaller communities out there. Transit agencies are also eligible for this funding. So if MART has something that they would like to do, or they would like to be part of a grant application plan, an action grant plan, they're eligible to do that too. This grants, awards, funding, and match get into how they review the projects, the grant applications, and what they're putting emphasis on. For implementation grants, they're looking to make awards and strides that they can show will save lives and reduce roadway fatalities and serious injuries. Incorporating equity and engagement is a major factor in both of these programs, both of these grant programs. So those are things that need to be, that they'll look for within the application. In terms of how much money is available funding, the bipartisan infrastructure law, which created this SS4A program, they've approved $6 billion in funding, with $5 billion in advance appropriations. Basically, for fiscal years 2022 to 2026, they've got about $1 billion of funds available for this program. Regarding maximum and minimum award size, there's no funding minimum or maximum. However, within the NOFO, which stands for Notice of Funding Opportunity, which can be found online, and we do have copies. We've downloaded copies, so if anyone's interested and they can't find it online, just let us know. We can send them a copy. They provide expected minimum and maximum ranges for applications. For action plan grants, they're looking at expected minimum of $200,000 and a maximum of about $1 million. So again, that depends upon how many people are involved and what they're looking to do. Implementation grants, they're expecting will be minimum will be about $5 million with a maximum award of $30 million for the subdivisions within a state. They've also got requirements that only so much of the $1 billion will be spent in one state. So depending upon how many applicants come in from, say, Massachusetts, there may be more applicants seeking funding than what the legislation will allow to be funded in Massachusetts. That is up to US DOT to figure that out and let us know on that end what's going to be done. The matching. Is there a matching requirement for these grants? Yes. Typically, the grants will give you 80% of the federal funding, and there's a local matching share of no less than 20% of eligible activity costs. Now, all matching funds must be from non-federal sources. So that basically what it means too is that as an MPO, if we were to apply, we cannot use our transportation planning contract that we do the funds to UPWP and so forth as a match to the program. So we have to come up with some other funding mechanism or local match for that. In-kind activities are also acceptable, but it all has to be spelled out within the application. What are there? Restrictions on fundings. We won't. Just talks basically about how much is allowed per state. Next question. You cannot apply for an action grant and an implementation grant at the same time. The funding has to be separate. So it's either or action plan or implementation. There's no multiple awards for the same for an applicant under the program, so it's only one award for one application. What kind of funds make up the local match? This gets into some of the in-kind contributions that are allowed. You know, personnel, goods, services, space, utilities, and so forth. That all needs to be spelled out, and that can be discussed when we talk about putting the application together. So I'm just looking at the headlines of that to see questions, see what makes most sense to talk about right now. Supplemental plan. Oh, okay. Eligible plans and projects. For an action plan, eligible activities and costs include only those that directly assist in the development of the action plan or supplemental action plan activities in support of an existing action plan. So they spell out what can be done for an action plan. Implementation grants must include carrying out projects and strategies identified in that action plan. So again, we get back to that point where you need an action plan in place before you can apply for implementation grants. I want to get to some of the more stuff, more important stuff. If you've already have an existing safety or action plan, is that eligible? Can you then apply for an implementation funding? You can, but there is a self-certification eligibility worksheet, in the notice of funding opportunity. The applicant must fill out to answer whether that action plan is acceptable to the US DOT. It's about 9 separate questions. You're required to answer, yes on 3 required questions have to answer yes, and then of the remaining 6, you got to answer yes on 4. So there is a specific worksheet that can be looked at and filled out. We are available too if a community would like to feels they have an action plan that would meet these requirements. We can help you fill out that self-certification worksheet. Just let us know and we can work with you so that you may then be able to go on and apply for an implementation grant. So where is joint applications and partnering across agencies? Can joint applications be submitted for action plan grants? Joint applications that engage multiple jurisdictions in the same region are encouraged to promote collaboration across multiple jurisdictions, leverage the expertise of multiple agencies, and facilitate partnerships with entities that have established financial relationships with DOT and knowledge of federal grant requirements. So basically it says that multiple communities can get together and file under one application and put one application together for this program. States are not eligible for this, so you'd have to establish an arrangement with state DOT if there is some other, if you want someone else to administer the grant. Can an MPO or Council of Governments apply for a series of implementation projects and strategies across multiple jurisdictions under a single application? Yes, which basically means that the MPO, Montachusett MPO, could put together an implementation grant that covers multiple projects across multiple jurisdictions and group them together into one single application. So we could apply for projects to occur in Athol, Fitchburg, Leominster, Gardner, Royalston, so forth, if that's what we deem is most appropriate. If my MPO is applying for an action plan grant, can my municipality also apply, or do we need to participate in a joint application? Separate action plan grant applications for similar jurisdictions areas are permitted. However, if they're duplicates, USDOT will figure it out and flag them, and will only be looking to fund one of those applications. What's the difference between submitting a joint application and partnering with another entity? Excuse me. As it states here, joint application comprises a multiple jurisdictional group of entities that is regional in scope. That is a multiple jurisdictional group of counties, council of governments, of cities within the same region. Joint application will be signing a grant agreement with one as the lead applicant and the rest as supporting signatories. All entities participating in joint application must be eligible applicants. So we couldn't do a application with Mass DOT as a joint application because Mass DOT is not an eligible entity. Partners collaborate and work with an application on the execution of the projects, but are not applicants. Partners are not a party to the grant agreement and have no affiliation with USDOT. If an eligible applicant is a partner on an application, being a partner on that application does not preclude the partner from submitting its own application. So if you're a partner, you can still look to submit your own application for, say, an implementation of something else. I think basically what it comes down to is some of the financial support that's being put together in the application. There's also more of the program requirements. They're all listed in the Notice of Funding Opportunity. The other major point of this is the deadline for applications is September 15th, 2022. What we as a regional planning agency intend to do is put together be available to put together we don't have a action safety plan right now in effect for the region. We have a lot of safety information that's compiled regarding high crash locations, fatal crash locations, and so forth. But the action plan needs to follow, it has to have certain requirements and certain segments within it. It has to be a public involvement process. There has to be a sign off and an agreement on a ranking of strategies and prioritizing those strategies and prioritizing those locations. So that all has to be spelled out in the action plan. So action plan is a formal document that gives us an idea that, excuse me, what our priorities are, where those locations are, and what needs to be done and implemented, and what the strategies that will solve those problems are. We are looking for feedback from our communities. One, if you do have an action plan and you're interested in moving forward or seeing if that action plan meets USDOT's requirements, we'll work with you to go through that. We also want to know if there are communities interested in doing an action plan with us and partnering or being a co-applicant with us in this development of this program. We would anticipate as an MPO that if we applied for funding, typically we look on a regional level, but if not all the communities are interested in joining or being part of the joint application, that's well and good. But we would look to, at some point, if we do receive an award, to hire an outside consultant to work on this, because there's a lot of input and public outreach that needs to be done, and coordinating with the communities to get their feedback and get their issues known and documented. I thought I had it up here for a look, see, but I didn't upload it. I'll have to find it later. But if you have an interest in trying to apply, or trying to be part of an development of application grant, please let us know as soon as you can. After this meeting, I'm going to be sending out surveys to all our communities to judge their interest in the program and whether they want to be part of the application. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to send it to chief electeds as well as DPWs so that they can talk to the chief electeds in their communities to jump on board if they do so wish to. And then we start working on putting together a grant application. We have access to the application program. We're all set. It needs to go through grants.gov, so we can work on that. But again, be on the lookout for a survey that will be coming in the next few days, trying to judge your interest in this program. And we can explain it more and talk a little bit more in depth as to what's expected of the communities. The big thing would be the 20% match. If there are things that, if you want to join, be a co-applicant or be a partner, what can you may be able to contribute to the local match? And it could be in-kind services such as meeting room space for certain days and so on and so forth. We can all discuss that once we know who's interested and who will be joining us in this application. I think the time frame seems a little tight, but I don't think it'll be too bad. Notice of funding opportunity outlines how what you need to put together for the application. So we'll be doing that and moving forward. Are there any questions from anyone about this program?
Brad, I actually have, it's really a two-part question. You kind of answered part of it right there at the end. One, for the group, does anybody in the group here today actually have a local action plan that they think might qualify? And two, the second part of that is, I think from a regional perspective, just one man's opinion, that if we got together, like you had suggested, Brad, through the MPO, that it might have a better chance of scoring and obtaining those federal dollars than maybe one or two communities trying to get together and do it separately or as part of a group. That's just my own opinion. So I was just curious, one, has anybody got one that they think might qualify already? And two, you'll answer that with the survey about who may be interested, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, if I could say something, Janet Tice from Shirley.
Yep.
We're very concerned about the increase in heavy truck traffic through our town. And I know this is also affecting neighboring towns. And thinking long term, there are, two or three projects coming to fruition that have a good chance of increasing that truck traffic. And we're talking about 18-wheelers here, and even larger than that. Increasing that traffic significantly on top of what the increases we're already seeing. Would it make sense to try to, and obviously this is a regional problem. This isn't just a Shirley problem. It's not just a Shirley neighbor problem. It's all of our problem. So would it make sense for MRPC to look at a project that would involve somehow figuring out how to accommodate this this increase in truck traffic safely, while preserving, quality of life in our communities? I'm thinking pollution from, diesel trucks, and certainly safety on our roads. These roads are not designed for these vehicles. These vehicles typically can't fit in the lane width on our town roads. So how are we going to, moving forward, how is the region going to handle this without a significant decrease in quality of life and safety?
Well, I think that's an issue to be brought up during the action plan development process. If we were to receive a grant, we would, hire a consultant to develop the plan. And
Right.
when they meet with the communities and talk to the communities and the general public and do that outreach to get those issues, to get those things brought to light and documented, and then from there work towards what are the strategies that can be implemented to reduce those. These grants stress things like climate change, reduction in emissions. They also stress equity in those underserved communities, underserved neighborhoods, and so forth, so that they see some of the benefits from this funding. So I think that's all legitimate questions for the applicant, for the action plan as it's put together. And getting back to your point, I think as a planning commission or the MPO, we would be looking to do a region-wide plan. But we'd also like to get some people, some of the communities to step up as either a joint applicant with us or partners. Of course, we want to spell out that they are going to be active partners in the development process. So, you know,
I mean, why wouldn't all the communities in the region be interested in participating?
I would assume you would be, but you know, I can't speak for the Royalstons and the small communities like that who may feel that you know, they're set with what they have or something like that, or they may not have the ability to help out with the 20% local match. Those are all questions we would talk with the communities about. But I would like, from our point of view, we would like to do a region-wide application to, you know, get everybody on board, and then from there be able to apply in future years for implementation grants to get these some of these projects put together. So right now, I would just be looking for feedback from the towns and the communities as to your interest level and what you may like to do. If you have thoughts on, again, local matches, just let us know, and we can work with you further as we develop the application. And also, if you have an idea as to how much you think this will cost, because at this point, I'm not sure how much we'd end up asking for to cover 22 communities in North Central Mass for this development of this plan. We'd have to do some and back of the envelope calculations to try and figure out how much funding we'd look for.
Okay, are there any other questions for Brad regarding the Safe Streets for All? And again, if you have some additional thoughts and ideas, certainly email them to Brad. Let them know.
Yep. Be on the lookout for that email.
Look out for that email. And the only thing that I would say, Brad, too, is you kind of just touched on that. For a lot of folks, especially some of the smaller communities in the group, they may say, we want to participate, but what does that 20% need for me? And how is that going to be determined? For instance, is Royalston, for instance, next to us here in Athol with 1,000 people, going to pay the same portion as Leominster or Fitchburg? And somebody's going to want to know that answer before they can say, yeah, we're going to commit. So we kind of have to have a sense of, like you said, what we're going to go for and what that match may be. That's all.
I'll be talking with Glenn, our executive director, on questions like that, because they've been involved with other grant programs for developing those in-kind matches and so forth. So I'll be talking with him to get his feedback on that. Before we jump off this topic, I got one thing another program to throw at you and prevent some information on. Recently, we received notice of the Reconnecting American Communities grant program that was been developed as also through the bipartisan infrastructure law. This program, let me see if I can talk to you about this one real quick. It's along the same lines, I think, the process along the same lines as the SS4A. It's a discretionary grant program. They've also got funds available for fiscal year 2022 and for the remainder of the BIL, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. Their deadline for applications is October 13th of this year. You can also establish or see some FAQs on this program through this link here. And again, this is available in our online folder. But basics of this program are, wrong button. The purpose of the RCP program is to reconnect communities by removing, retrofitting, or mitigating transportation facilities such as highway and rail lines that create barriers to community connectivity, including to mobility, access, or economic development. The program provides technical assistance and grant funding for planning and capital construction to address infrastructure barriers, restore community connectivity, and improve people's lives. So there's a lot of words in there as to what they're looking for. I think you need to dive down a little bit further to figure out if you have something that could be doable. Again, they're having two types of grants: a planning grant fund to fund the study of removing, retrofitting, or mitigating an existing facility to restore community connectivity, conduct public engagement, and then a capital construction grant to carry out a project to remove, retrofit, mitigate, or replace an existing eligible facility with a new facility. I highlighted some of the information that I think answers some questions to begin with. Total funding available right now is 195 million. There's 50 million allocated for planning grants and 145 million for capital construction grants, and that's just in fiscal year 2022. Award size right now, the maximum award is they specified for planning grants is 2 million, and they expect planning grants will range from about $100,000 to $2 million development. Capital construction grants, the BIL specifies that the minimum capital construction grant is $5 million. So obviously we would need to have something, an idea on something to see if it's eligible that could go under this. We'd have to have a project in line to put together. Eligible applicants are basically the same as you saw in the other one. Cities, towns, MPOs, and so forth are eligible. State, states also, LUNA, local government, metropolitan planning organizations, or nonprofit. For planning grants for capital, the applicant must be the owner of the eligible facility proposed in the project for which all necessary feasibility studies and other planning activities have been completed. Owners of an eligible facility may submit a joint application with a state, a local government, an MPO, or a nonprofit organization. So there's already going to be a project in mind, and feasibility study is done and conducted, and you're just looking for funds to move forward on the project. There is a cost sharing and match. The federal shares are not to exceed 80% for the planning grants. On the capital, the federal shares may not exceed 50% of the total cost. So what are eligible planning grant activities and costs? For one of those, it's public engagement activities, planning studies, conceptual and preliminary engineering or design and planning studies, associated needs such as locally driven land use and zoning reform, transit-oriented development, and so forth. Capital construction grants. Eligible projects include those for which all necessary feasibility studies and other planning activities have been completed. So that's a big requirement of that program for actual construction. I think that's probably as far as I went on highlighting as at this point. This is just some of the information needed for the grants as you put them together in applications. Again, it's through grants.gov, which we have access to. This is from the notice of funding opportunity, the NOFO, for this program. And again, we have it available. If you're interested, let me know. I think I also make it available on our website under the announcement page. But I'm giving this information to you right now so that the communities can go back and look and think if there's something they have in the back of their mind that they'd like to see done or implemented, or possibly funded in the future. Specifically, I've been thinking of Athol. We've done some work with the town regarding a new interchange off of Route 2 in the South Athol Road area. I don't know if this meets the requirements of that, but it might be an opportunity to look at and maybe get some funds for engineering work, further feasibility studies, environmental work, and so forth on something like that. But I'm sure there are other communities. I know in the past in Shirley, there's always been concerns about the railroad crossings in the center of town and how that impacts the safety and response time for their emergency vehicles. So if they have ideas in mind about something that can be done there, that might be a place to look for a planning grant at that point too. So if a community has any ideas or any interest, let us know. We'll be willing to work with you and see if we can answer those questions, and then put together an application with you too to see if there's anything that can be done in the future. And that's all I have on this.
Thank you very much, Brad. Moving forward to item number 8 on the agenda, the contract status reports. We'll start with item number A, Federal Transit Administration.
I have nothing at this time on FTA or for MART. George Cahaley from MART is out of the country right now, so he's also we're all set there on transit. We're just still moving forward on the different projects we have with them, and nothing new to report on that at this point.
Okay, so we'll jump down to Department of Transportation.
Okay, a couple of things there. As I mentioned earlier, the MPO is meeting next week on July 20th at 1 p.m. And again, that major action item will be the proposed FFY 2022 TIP Amendment number 6. As I mentioned before, we've also been looking to try and get a consultant on board to help us with our traffic counts. We've been in touch with one group that has submitted a bid. We're talking with them, and hopefully we can work out a contract within the next few days and get them on board and get our traffic counting program up and running. There are 3 handouts, separate handouts that are available. The first is from Mass DOT for the Northern Tier Passenger Rail Study from June. It's the June newsletter. There'll be a virtual public information meeting on this study tomorrow, Thursday, July 14th at 6 p.m. That's a virtual meeting. If you're interested and need to register for this, here the link is here on this handout, but it's also on our website. Again, under announcements, there's a announcement for the Northern Tier project, and you can access the link there to register for the meeting. The second and third handouts deal with a new program from Mass DEP, a grant program called Diesel Emission Reduction Act Electric Solicitation Grant. So this is the announcement newsletter talking about the program. The second handout is just a background and grant guidance and application guidance for people interested in the program. Basically, Mass DEP announced a new funding opportunity for private, public, and nonprofit entities to replace eligible diesel vehicles and equipment with zero-emission technologies. Through the Federal Diesel Emission Reduction Act program, Massachusetts is conducting a competitive electric-only solicitation with an application deadline of August 24th, 2022. This is an early replacement program designed to accelerate the retirement of less efficient and more polluting diesel vehicles and equipment. Eligible diesel vehicles, engines, and equipment include, but are not limited to, school buses, transit buses, medium-duty or heavy-duty trucks, and non-road engines, equipments, or vehicles. So MassDOT has approximately $1.88 million available for this new program, and it's open to any entity, public or private, with an eligible vehicle, engine, or equipment to replace. And the eligibility for equipment eligibility is based on criteria that Mass DEP has as listed in the 2021 guide, the DER, the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act guide. You'll see right here some of the things they will cover: school buses, transit buses, I said, medium, heavy duty, non-road engines, equipment or vehicles, which some of the DBWs may have. So this is, again, another program that's available. If you have equipment that you'd like to replace early, this might be something to look into. And we are available to assist too in the application to reviewing some of the information. And last couple of items. A reminder, back in early June, we sent out reappointment or appointment forms to the boards of selectmen, mayors, and planning boards in our region for appointment of members to the JTC. We've received some back. Those highlighted in yellow are who we've heard back from for and received the appointment forms. So if your community hasn't sent one back, please take a notice. Have them look for this form. It did go to the boards of selectmen, the mayors, and the planning boards, and see if you can get it filled out and just sent back to us so that we have the correct information we need for everybody for the MJTC. So that's just a friendly reminder to take a look for that. And That's all I have right now under Mass DOT.
Thank you, Brad. Moving forward to item number 9, administrative matters will, the next MJTC, we had talked about skipping August and moving to September. So I think that
Correct.
would be September
The-
14th.
Right, September 14th at 2:30.
2:30?
Mm-hmm. And just so
And-
everyone's aware, after that, the next meeting would then be November 9th and then January 11th, 2023.
Okay, is there any other business that folks on the meeting need to discuss before we entertain a motion to adjourn? Seeing and hearing none, thank you all for attending, and we'll see you in September.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Take
you.
care.